amount of time or days without eating and you're wondering, what am I supposed to do or how do I end the fast? Beginning a fast can be as important as ending it, because of course when you're beginning, before you embark on any fast, you need to kind of be prepared psychologically, kind of try to get your body used to it by reducing the temptations or things that can actually make you to end up not being able to fast. For example, if you've got a lot of food that you've cooked, you don't really want to embark on a fast when you've just cooked a lot of food, or when it's a festive season, because you really want to ensure that you are committing onto it. And of course, it's more psychological. You decide and you say, like, I'm gonna do this, and you'll be surprised at how you are able to do it somehow. Now you've done your fasting for X amount of days. Maybe it was like a day, or it was a longer, prolonged fasting. You're thinking of, how do I end? One of the things that you need to think about, particularly for longer fasts, there are potential side effects when you're breaking a long-term fast. You can end up with things like, because fasting slows down the production of digestive enzymes, so you may experience some gastrointestinal distress when you start to eat again. These will always come or can come in the form of diarrhea or loose stools, passing of undigested foods, gas pains, bloating, and in very rare cases you can have nausea and vomiting. So that's something that you can't be, or you should be prepared for, just in case it happens. So some of the foods can be really problematic if you have been away, you've stayed away from food for a long period of time, and you're reintroducing these foods back. So you really need to be careful with things like nuts and nut butters, something to think about, because they can actually result in issues after you've been fasting. Seeds and seed butters, some vegetables, particularly the cruciferous family. So you have things like broccolis, Brussels sprouts. Particularly if you're eating them raw, please be wary. But if they're cooked, they could be fine. Eggs can be another issue. Dairy products, alcohol, and in some cases, people can find difficulties with digesting red meat or certain kinds of red meat after they've fasted. So if you're starting to break off from a fast, please don't just wake up the first day after you've been fasting, particularly for a long period of time, and decide you're going to binge, because of course you've been staying away from food for a long time. So be very careful when it comes to intaking or reintroducing these foods in your diet. When you're breaking a fast, start off very well hydrated. Drink lots of water, drink lots of herbal teas. You may want to start your meal off with, let's say, a cup of cucumber salad with some chopped up parsleys. You can add a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. You can as well just have a soup. You can as well have like broth. That can be very good. Be careful and play it safe when it comes to things like proteins. Particularly be careful with red meat, as I've already said. Keep your protein sources to things like poultry or fish. You can as well just boil the chicken, for example. Just drink the chicken broth, and that can help reintroducing your digestive tract again to eating again. And when it comes to these foods, they can be cooked in fat or poultry skin, so that at the end of the day, you ending up like kind of reintroducing this much more smaller. Try to limit your protein size intake into small sizes, so you're not really having a lot, because it's going to take quite a lot of energy to reawaken your digestive system, because when you are fasting, your body digestive system just goes into sleeping, and you have to reawake it again. Feel you might want again to have things like non-starchy, like for example vegetables that have been cooked, and then things like cooked in things like avocado, coconut oil, or butter or ghee. And you might want to finish off with an avocado, because it's got like quite a lot of natural fats that can fill you up a little bit more if you still. Some people end up experiencing what is called refeeding syndrome. This is very rare side effect of resuming to consume your food after a long period of time, and that's just something that can be characterized, of course, is defined as the potentially fatal shifts in fluids and electrolytes that may occur in malnourished patients or individuals. This is something that can occur, but it's very rare after you resume eating food after long periods of malnutrition or extended times. Some of the major symptoms of refeeding syndrome include fatigue, weakness, confusion, difficulty in our inability to breathe, elevated blood pressure, seizures, heart arrhythmias, failure, coma, and even in some cases, people have died, and it's just because of whatever that happens is you're having difficulties to reintroduce this refeeding syndrome. Always avoid breaking your fast with a meal that is high in carbohydrates. It's better to stick to low carb. You might want to do high fat meals because, again, if you are eating too much carbohydrates, that can have an impact on your body. Avoid meals that surge insulin and blood sugar because, of course, that's something you don't want to shock your body because you've been restricting yourself for a while from eating. Stay hydrated during your fast. Drink mineral water, for example. But if you're drinking, let's say, I would recommend things like filtered water as well. And you might want to supplement with a pinch of natural salt, such as Himalayan salt, and a few times throughout the day. Or you can as well try to have things like electrolyte, as I mentioned already before. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any extended fast. If you've never fasted before, don't just wake up in the morning and say, okay, well, I've seen a lot of challenges on the internet where people are inviting people into fasting challenges. If you've not done a fast or a long fast before, don't just jump into the bandwagon and begin going into challenges. It might be worthwhile speaking to a healthcare provider, and in particular if you're doing an extended fast and the first time of doing it, it might be worthwhile just speaking to somebody who has more knowledge on this and maybe doing it under supervision, so that at the end of the day when you're reintroducing the meals, you can do it in the right way and you end up avoiding the refeeding syndrome.